Now, welcome to a re-review of Rogue One. A little late. I know a lot of people probably watched a couple weeks ago by now,
It's not
but
quite a re-review.
kind of is. It's
It's
like
really-
a re-experiencing it.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at what Andor does for Rogue One. How does it enhance Rogue One? What are the changes watching Andor makes when you're now experiencing Rogue One?
Yeah.
More or less that.
Kind of also just talking about the movie in general, too, because I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it in actually years because I was purposely not watching it. I haven't seen it since before Andor Season 1, because like, all right, I'm waiting. I'm going to rewatch Rogue One after Andor whenever it finishes, and here we are.
Yeah. I just think it's really interesting. I mean, we already kind of talked about the fact that Cassian, he goes to the Rings of Kafrene. He meets up with his contact, and he's immediately like, what weapon? What's it called? What does it do? Because we know now that
he
didn't
knows,
find out what it did. He knew it existed, but he wants the rest of the information. He knows pieces, and he's going to get there.
Well, I like when it's like an old friend of Saw's, and then he's like, Urso, and he's like, Galen Urso?
Yeah, now we know why he knows the name.
Yeah. I am very impressed, before we even go on, I'm very impressed at how they tied it back into Andor
Wonderful
or
job.
forward into Rogue One. However you want to look at it, it flows so well. It does feel like, oh, they just picked up and made a movie now, but obviously they made
And
Rogue
obviously
One
this
before.
whole thing enhances the original trilogy.
Oh, absolutely.
I find it kind of humorous that in A New Hope, we heard how they got the Death Star plans.
Yeah, so right in the opening crawl.
Yes.
Some spies got it, and there you go. We're off and away.
Rogue One came out, it showed us the strife, the struggle, the sacrifice of the rebels who retrieved said plans. Andor, specifically like Season 2 final arc, shows us the sacrifice, the struggle, the strife
Yeah.
of how they got the information the weapon existed at all.
Step by step.
Step by step, we're
going
getting the
backwards.
pieces, and
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. We know that the council wasn't even sure that they would trust information obtained by Luthen and Cleia, so I find the whole build-up into A New Hope so much more interesting.
No, the whole thing flows very nicely. It's like I said, it's very impressive how they kind of tied it back or tied it forward. Or it's funny they made A New Hope, then they made a prequel, and then another prequel, and it's done extremely
Yeah.
well.
First off, I want to say that I believe Krennic has been enhanced 100-fold, in my opinion, after watching Andor. Especially for people who did not get to read Catalyst, the Rogue One primer novel, we get to see this arrogant Krennic, full of pride, digitally working on his energy project
Yeah, the Palpatine's energy project.
to build the Death Star, which we know from Rogue One, he is assuming he is going to be commanding on behalf of the Emperor. We also know that the information pertaining to the Death Star was accidentally leaked to Dedra. And then, Lonnie got a hold of it from there, and the ISB didn't really know what happened with all this information. So in Rogue One, Tarkin, kind of near the beginning of the movie, kind of calls him out about this leak of information. And Krennic is like, yeah, we took care of the leak already. And Tarkin's like, no, I'm talking about this leak coming from Galen, coming from the ship that got out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually cool, because now we know why Krennic thinks the leak was handled. He locked Dedra up. He assumes the leak was taken care of. So when he's like, oh yes, your leak, and he's like, we've taken care of that. And we're like, I never knew what that referenced before. And now we're like, oh, it
I thought he was
references that.
referencing just the whole with the pilot. I don't know. Yeah.
No, because he didn't know where the pilot was.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, your leak actually comes from Galen. So I was like, well, that's kind of a neat nod, because we could now interpret it as the leak was the Dedra issue with the messages and all that.
Well, what I like with Tarkin is we now see in Andor that he's not a part of the... He obviously knows about it. He sees the dang thing at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So it's not like he doesn't know. But it's like in the secret meeting, Krennic is like, nobody knows about this. Not Yularen, not Tarkin. So Tarkin hasn't been in the know for a while.
Right.
And yet here in Rogue One, we see Krennic get really kind of pissed off because Tarkin's like, yeah, I think I'm going to take the project now that you have done it. And he's like, my achievement.
We stand
yeah.
against my achievement.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You
oh.
understand that anger because
Because he's
Tarkin,
been working on this forever.
Yeah, Tarkin just kind of came in and swooped in. It's like, I think I'm going to take the control of this now.
He's under the impression that Tarkin doesn't know the full extent of the energy project because of the speech you mentioned that when they were going to handle the gore. So I found that really interesting.
Yeah, Tarkin's been on it. He knows about it. Obviously, he knows about it, but he doesn't know the details. He hasn't been handling it on the day-to-day.
And
Like
Krennic doesn't
has.
know how much he knows.
No,
So
Krennic,
it's all very much more layered, I would say. Much more layered.
And the Catalyst book goes into more about Krennic and Tarkin and why they don't like each other.
I also think that watching the movie after Andor does feel a bit odd because we're used to Cassian being the main character. So all of a sudden now Jyn is taking over that role, and it feels a little weird.
It does feel a little
honestly,
strange, yeah.
Because I'm like, well, this isn't. Wait a second, who's that? Who are you?
Yes.
And also, knowing about his relationship with Bix means we can't ship Cassian and Jyn anymore. I don't
think anybody ever...
There were people who
I'm sure
shipped
there's
them.
a ship for everything these days, but I do
People
appreciate...
who thought if they would have had a longer time together, there would have been a relationship.
No, I do appreciate the end of Rogue One where they know they're about to die. The Death Star just blasts, and you see basically a nuclear explosion and a blast wave coming for them. Certainly there is a moment where they're hugging, and there's a moment of like, yes, no matter who you're with at the end, you're kind of gonna try to hold on to them, if you will. So I don't have a problem with that. It's not like
do you
they're
think that now in
making
the
out.
end, Cassian spent his last moments maybe thinking about Bix?
Certainly, I
hope so, yeah.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly he was thinking of Bix.
So another thing of note is Jyn starts out in an Imperial prison, Wobani, aka Obi-Wan. It's a joke. The spelling it's Obi-Wan's letters rearranged. That's where Wobani comes from. She was sentenced to 20 years. Knowing what we know from Andor, that might be more of a permanent sentence. Just because you're sentenced for 20 years, once you're arrested, they weren't getting out of prison anymore, as we saw from Narkina.
Yeah, she probably got an extended sentence as well.
And Wobani is a labor camp. So I'm going to bet whatever labor she's performing, be it mining, maybe some assembly, whatever she's doing there probably has to do with building the second Death Star in some fashion.
Probably,
She could be mining minerals. I mean, they're hauling them out to do some sort of manual labor during the day.
Kind of mining or something, yeah.
Yeah, so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she's helping build the second Death Star. And it's funny because the Death Star is built on the backs of those that are in prison, so they're quote-unquote cheap labor. This could also explain, though, why the second Death Star was built so quickly. The Empire's been arresting more and more people as time goes on. They're not releasing them from prison, so the labor force is constantly growing. Sentences are doubled, you're not released, more people working, second Death Star's coming along just fine.
No, I agree. I think that explains the second Death Star, how it got built so much faster, because, well, they had a working design now. They knew exactly, well, maybe they needed to fix an exhaust port, but otherwise they had a perfectly working design, and they had the labor. As you said, they've been arresting more and more people, so...
Heck, she could have been mining this planet for Kyber.
We don't know what...
We have no idea what she's been up to there. Saw is also an interesting upgrade. I mean, throughout Andor, we saw him at the very beginning. He was very intelligent, very driven. He's tete-a-tete with Luthen. And then we watched him over the course of the show turn into a paranoid crazy man that we see in Rogue One.
Yes.
We even get the scene near the end where he argues with Mon that he refuses to settle down on Jedha. He's stirring up so much trouble. It's gotten worse for the people who live here. And you can almost sense that Mon is worried that maybe what happened on Gorman could happen here due to Saw's overt rebel activity.
It kind of does, in a way.
Yeah, you could really think on that now. So after seeing Gorman Massacre, I'm going to call it 2.0, it's easy to see why Mon is concerned about his actions on Jedha, as well as the Imperial response. It's frightening. I mean, what's to say?
They're not.
They just brought a whole Star Destroyer. What's to say they're not going to destroy Jedha City, which they eventually do.
Well, they do, yeah, just not with the Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they're willing to do whatever. Gorman just proves there is no bottom here. They're willing to go as far as they have to go to do the worst possible things.
Yeah, and it's funny because they functioned a lot like Luthen did, but the opposite. On Gorman, they were like inventing rebel activity to get rebel activity, and now they go to Jedha and they're just going to get rebel activity. And well, it's another excuse for them to crack the whip, isn't it?
It is.
The last thing I'm going to talk about is Cassian's character, because I just think he gets better. Because we know how he has lived his life. We know who he is. We know when he gets angry that people are making assumptions about him. They don't know him. They don't know the struggles, the sacrifices he's made, not the way we as the audience do. So even when Chirrut asks, does he look like a killer? And they question his actions, if he's going to kill Galen, well, they don't know his life. They don't know what he's been through. So I just feel more sympathetic towards his character throughout this whole process.
No, I think one of the best parts about Rogue One now, other than, yes, it enhances or has been enhanced by Andor, but one of the best results of that, I guess I should say, is Cassian feeling like
a real character.
Yeah, a guy you've been on this crazy adventure with now for 2 seasons of Andor that you feel like you know very well. And the funny thing is, all along we've known how he is going to perish, and yet here we are at the end, and we're like, God, I want this guy to go be with Bix, and we know it ain't gonna happen, and it's heartbreaking watching that movie now. Whereas before you're like, oh yeah, everybody dies at the end. Who cares? That's cool, I guess.
Fine, whatever.
But now it's like it's painful watching that, just knowing the whole time like Bix is out there, and
she was waiting for him.
Yeah, his son is out there, and he's
Poor daughter.
No, it's son. It's confirmed to be son.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyway, either or child, he's never going to, as far as we know, he doesn't know he has a child. I mean,
I don't think
he does. Yeah.
I don't think Bix told him on the deliberate fact that it would change what he's meant to do.
Yes.
And she really had almost an awakening when she talked to that Force healer that Cassian has something he's meant to do. And she knew as long as she stayed, she knew with the birth of their child, Cassian would give up on that, and she knew the rebellion needed him.
Yeah, it's very sad.
So
tragic.
She had her own sacrifice.
And she knew, like, she couldn't raise a child in a galaxy that the Empire still controlled. And she knew that Cassian was, or she felt, and she was right, that Cassian was a part of liberating that galaxy.
So, talking to that Force healer changed a lot for her.
Yeah, because I think she started to believe that, because everything she's been through with Cassian, like, Cassian's a beast. I mean, when, he survives all these, like Luthen pointed out, like, everywhere you need to be, you're there, and you've done all these crazy things. You've always succeeded. Like, even Luthen was picking up on the importance of Cassian. And so they're like, yeah, you can't get out of this fight now that they need you.
He's too important.
Yeah. You are one of the keys to saving it all.
He was the tipping point. Without what his actions, I mean, the Death Star would still be roaming around.
It would, yeah, and so would a second one, because they were, like I said, they were working on two.
On him. I mean, Jin was building the second one, I think.
Yeah, and she never gets out, and yeah, it's a whole different galaxy if Cassian decides to go off with Bix.
Because Saw didn't believe the message. He was too paranoid at that point. He was never going to tell them, hey, because even if Clea's message didn't get through, if Luthen's message didn't get through to the rebellion, he had the pilot. Either way, he had the pilot, but he didn't believe the pilot.
No.
He thought everything's a trap at this point. Without Cassian moving the pieces on the playboard that he did, things would not have worked.
No, Cassian is the key to everything. All right, well, I think that is going to be all we got for you this time. It is your turn now to take to the comments below and tell us what you think of Rogue One after rewatching it here after Andor.
What nuances have you noticed?
Yeah, how does it different for you? Is there something we didn't mention? What do you think?
Did it not change much for you?
Yeah, maybe not.
Either way, I want to know.
Yeah, whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.